Hey folks, welcome to a podcast about Catholic things. I am Eric, the ambassador of common sense, and I'm here with...
I'm Dan, the ambassador of nonsense. Welcome everybody.
And we are getting one out this week, but the thing is we're late. So we're recording a little bit late, and also we don't have a formal subject today. There's a lot going on right now, so we're going to talk a lot about these current events, and we're going to tell you now that next week we'll be talking about the devil and how much power the devil has here on earth, which should be an interesting subject.
How much he doesn't have.
Right.
And before we get too far down the line, I'm going to tell you about the beer of the week.
I don't have a beer.
By the way,
I
did tell you.
Yeah, you
why
told
don't
me.
you have one?
I told you to send me one.
Well, you can't send beer through the mail. You know that, right?
I did not know that.
Well, it actually depends on which state you're sending it to, and probably from. I don't know. Different states have different rules about that. In any case,
what's the beer?
This is a Cincinnati beer. It's called Rheingeist. The Rhine is from the area of Cincinnati known as Over the Rhine. Yep, which is a German settled area. The Erie Canal reminded the Germans of the Rhine River, and so they called it Over the Rhine. And Rheingeist has the beers by Rheingeist always have a very typical look on their can, just different colors.
You got that green?
Well, it's not always green. It might be pink or red or brown or whatever.
I don't think I've ever tasted it.
A very dark blue. But they always feature this kind of like skull-looking drop on the front.
Yeah.
And this one
it looks almost like a generic can.
Yeah, it looks like a generic can.
But with color.
You don't even think you're buying a brand name beer or a craft beer. But this has, aside from the normal look, it's got some baseball stitching patterns on it. And the name of the beer is Hustle. And people may not know that it's named... it actually has a little bit of a thing on the back that tells it's off the crack of the bat, spikes dug in, exploding with speed, Hustle breaks the game wide open. This India Pale Ale takes a hard, hoppy cut at the soft, fluffy, hanging curve, driving notes of peach, tangerine, and citrus, back, gone. Now, one of the managers for the Cincinnati Reds was Pete Rose, and his mantra as a manager, and actually his mantra personally as a baseball player, was to always hustle. He never walked out into the field. He ran out onto the field and so forth. So anyway.
He hustled a lot of people too. That's why he was kicked out of the Hall of Fame.
That's right. Double meaning of the word hustle.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised they chose that. Oh well.
Did he hustle people, or did he just hustle the IRS?
No, he was betting on games. That's all.
He was betting on games. Yeah, that's the conflict of interest. I mean, just unprofessional. You're not supposed to do that.
Yeah. But he's banned from the Hall of Fame because of it. I think the last game. I remember like 10, 15 years ago, the 700 WLW sports station here in Cincinnati, they asked people to chant something at one of the Reds games, something like let him in, or something like that.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And the whole stadium was chanting this, whatever it was, and he's still not in, so.
Yeah.
But
yeah. Well, that's I guess you could make an argument that the Baseball Hall of Fame should be representative of your baseball accomplishments and not
here's something.
I guess your personal moral worth or whatever. But
here's something. There are two people in the Baseball Hall of Fame whose job has absolutely nothing to do with baseball. Can you tell me who they are?
When you say nothing to do, do you mean nothing to do, or do you just mean they're not a player?
I mean they have nothing to do with baseball.
Okay, then I'm going to say no, because I can imagine some announcers that would be in the Hall of Fame.
No, it's nothing like that.
But I don't know. I don't know who they would be.
Bud Abbott and Lou Costello.
Oh, no kidding.
Who's on first?
Yeah. Well, that doesn't quite have nothing to do with baseball, but
But their career had nothing to do with baseball.
their career had nothing. Yeah,
They
that's
just
right.
had one
That's
baseball
true.
bit that they did.
Yep.
So,
And everybody knows. Yeah, I should have
and
known
apparently
that,
they didn't bet on baseball because they're in the Hall of Fame. So,
yeah, I guess not.
okay. Let's see. So today we're just going to talk about some of these current events, and there's an awful lot of them happening. And I guess the biggest one right now is the fire at Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Which, okay, from the very second this started, every news organization, including even Fox News, was very, very careful not to even say arson.
Oh,
and
right.
there were guests on Fox, I think Bill Donahue, who kind of started in that direction, because apparently there have been over 1,000 vandalized churches in the past year in France, Christian churches.
Okay. Oh, wow. Okay. So it's an ongoing thing.
Yeah, there's a big problem there with Muslims destroying Catholic churches.
Okay.
It's
so
a
somebody
huge
brought
problem.
up that pattern.
I don't know why
news...
you wouldn't immediately think of that when one of the landmarks of European Catholicism is being destroyed.
If you've got that background of churches being vandalized in France in mind, if you're aware of that background, that's the obvious go-to thought.
Right. And
yeah.
The thing is, okay, I started looking through the current events to do this podcast, and I would say there are about 10 or 15 shootings / burnings, stuff like that, sometimes massacres.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed throughout the headlines, not one single headline talked about who had done it. They were all focused on the victim. Every single one of these, which is fine. It's just that when they talked about the black churches that are being burned,
right,
they don't really talk about the churches. Then they talk about possible perps. You know what I mean? It kind of bothers me. I mean,
yeah.
This is a Muslim thing. Muslims are out killing Christians. Why can't we just say that?
Yeah. Let's just call it out for what it is. Maybe they didn't have anything to do with Notre Dame. Maybe they did. Too soon to call.
But if they're gonna, all the speculating that they do on the news, and don't give me that crap about wanting to stick to the facts, because the media in America doesn't even know what a fact is anymore.
No,
I mean, how much speculating are they doing on the Mueller report right now, which is supposed to be released tomorrow, the redacted version? There's all kinds of speculation, but you can't speculate on, I mean, I don't even know. It's not just the church, the artwork that is gone now and will never be seen again. You can't restore that. It's gone. And, it's a big deal. It's a bigger deal than the Mueller report.
Yeah. I think so.
And between that and,
I haven't even been reading about these black churches. I mean, is it like a serial thing that's ongoing, or was it a few black churches that got burned down or vandalized or whatever?
A few black churches, but it is a serial thing. Hold on, let me get to that.
It's kind of funny when the real news. I'm gonna use the word red pilled. Once you've been red pilled, the real news is actually just as much the news media's handling of events as it is the events themselves.
Yeah. Okay, a man accused of setting fire to 3 predominantly black churches in a southern Louisiana parish was charged with hate crimes on Monday, adding to the 3 charges of arson that were filed last week. So I guess that gives us 6 churches altogether. And here we go, Holden Matthews, 21-year-old son of a deputy sheriff, and the rest of the story is about him.
Okay.
Not the churches.
So he's been charged.
I'm assuming he's some kind of white nationalist or something, some wacko. But again, it's just the fact that we're going to talk about him.
Yeah.
Unless it's a Muslim, then we talk about the
then
victim.
we won't talk about him. Right.
And Yeah, I don't know. It bothers me.
That's the thing. I mean, the news clearly has their agenda. If the motivation behind it is on their political bad side, we talk about the perp or the suspect. If the motivation is something that they're aligned with, we won't talk about the perp or the suspect. We'll just talk about the event. And then, in fact, it's kind of funny. I'm just kind of glancing through this article and what it's featuring. This is on Fox News, and it's featuring people who are upset that the fire at Notre Dame is getting the attention it does because they don't feel like, some 800-year-old cathedral in Europe ought to get, drown out the attention of these black churches in Louisiana.
Wow.
And that's the cover. I mean, that's what the news considers worth reporting, is that somebody's upset over that.
Well, the thing is, look, that cathedral took an entire century to build.
Yeah.
And that's not to take away from the what was lost in these smaller fires. But
right. Or the human tragedy and the, these communities and stuff. But I mean, that cathedral is a significant, part of the
Catholic identity.
It's kind of that, like the central, a significant part of the, it holds in itself the heritage of a lot of Western civilization.
Right.
I mean, there's.
And the churches in Louisiana can very easily be rebuilt compared to what was in Notre Dame.
I mean,
comparatively.
The churches, I don't care how big they were. The churches in Indiana, compared to the Notre Dame Cathedral, it's a neighborhood barn raising to repair versus the cathedral. I mean, it doesn't address the human tragedy of either one. But in terms of the buildings themselves, that's fairly straightforward. It's kind of, here, another quote. It shows how little we are valued. I guess this guy's talking as I don't know who we is. His name is Johnson, American. He's a Native American.
Okay.
So these black churches, the mosque, Native American sites, they're not as valued as Catholicism or Christianity in that aspect. Okay, so first of all, the churches were black churches. Were there American Indian churches that were like targeted by this guy too?
I don't know, because the only thing they're talking about is the 6 predominant black churches. Maybe he went to one of them.
Let's see, three black churches in L.A. Let's see. I guess it's not. Yeah. L.A. It's actually Louisiana, right? That's what we're talking about. So were they black Muslim churches, or he must be talking about the mosque in?
We got St. Mary Baptist Church, Greater Union Baptist Church, and Mount Pleasant Baptist Church.
Yeah, so they're all Baptist churches, and then there's this, I don't know what he means by Native American sites. But here's the thing, here's another aspect of this that for Catholics, we should obviously oppose violence and reach out a helping hand to those who suffer it and so forth. But when we have a response that's not a matter of helping people who are in pain, of helping people that need help, but a response of a sense of tragedy over the loss of something sacred or the near loss of something sacred and the desire to see that restored. Yes, of course, Catholics should be far more interested in the cathedral at Notre Dame than in 1,000 black churches or 1,000 white Baptist churches. Because a Catholic church is where God makes himself available to consume in the Holy Eucharist. I mean, that's a truly sacred place. It's set aside for that purpose. And, as Catholics, the world should not expect us to have a sentiment any different than that.
Another thing is the fact that it's Catholic and instead of non-Catholic. It's like the sense of tragedy you feel when your neighbor's house burns down versus your daughter's house burns down or something like that. I mean, this is part of our family. So, we're going to be a little bit more outraged touched or whatever. Touched.
Right. I mean, even if it's not arson, even if it's just an accident, we're going to feel it more. We're going to,
Right.
It's going to touch us more deeply. And it should as Catholics. I mean, it should touch you more deeply when your daughter's house burns down than when your neighbor's house burns down.
Right. And you're going to go to different lengths to
help
right. and rebuild or whatever.
Your daughter's family can move in with you. You might not do that for your neighbor.
Right. So...
I think that's one of the things. I mean, I think Catholics these days in the news and all these, it's like we're criticized for having normal Catholic sensitivities.
Yeah,
and we need to stop feeling like we shouldn't have those.
So I guess right now we really don't know much about the fire, and I don't see us knowing anything real soon.
I mean,
we do
with a
know
building that big and so much to sift through for evidence.
I guess Trump made a tweet that I thought was strange at the time. Do you see his tweets?
I follow real Donald Trump, but it's been so long since I opened my Twitter app and actually looked at any tweets that I will not know it.
Let me find it. Here's the tweet. So horrible to watch the massive fire at Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris. Perhaps flying water tankers could be used to put it out. Must act quickly.
So that was while it was blazing.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Good. That's
so
solid.
Somebody told me it took them 2 hours to start fighting the fire. I don't know if that's true or not. But
is it because they're French?
I guess so. I don't know. I can tell you this. I don't think the fire would have done nearly as much damage if it had been in America.
Oh, yeah, because we do have a lot of immediate procedures in place for stuff.
And Trump is getting a lot of criticism, not even criticism, they're just making fun of him because of his tweet. And they're saying things
what aspect of it? Like he was suggesting airdrops?
That he was suggesting anything because his help was unsolicited. But this is a guy who, this is a builder. Yeah. He knows a lot about these kinds of things. He knows a lot about the buildings. He knows a lot about fires and tragedies and how to deal with them.
You know what? The guys that I'd make fun of would be for suggesting anything, would be the ones who may have been in politics their whole life.
Right.
Those are the ones who really don't have anything to say when it comes to practical things.
Yeah.
Or the actor celebrities, like when that idiot, who was it, Kevin Costner during you remember the
oil thing?
The oil thing.
Yeah. What did he say he wanted to do? I can't remember.
I don't even know that I ever bothered to understand what he was saying, but just the idea that he was presuming to have some kind of knowledge about it. It's like, come on, you idiot, you're a Hollywood actor.
Well, he had offered to pay for a giant clamp to be put down over the leak.
Something like that,
It was something real strange, and it was like, all right. Well, okay, so that's that, and we might end up coming back to that. But there's a lot of other stuff. And let me get all the space stuff out of the way.
Okay.
So
I like space stuff.
I'm trying to move my bullet points to realign them, and it won't just automatically do it for me. So, all right. So, LIGO and VIRGO. LIGO, which is the Laser Interferometer Gravitational Wave Observatory, and Virgo, which is another interferometer, have detected a gravitational wave from a galaxy 6 billion light years away. What they're saying this is when two giant massive forms, for example, black holes, actually not even just black holes, but what are they called? Supermassive black holes? Yeah.
That's a thing, yeah.
Supermassive black holes collide. There's kind of a ripple in the space-time surrounding that. And that's supposedly what we're detecting. I don't know how much of this I go for.
Okay.
But apparently LIGO was offline for a little while, and it was just put on again. And they're saying that they expect to be seeing these, I think once every two? I can't find where it said. Anyway, so anytime there's these giant masses that collide, they put out these waves, and we are detecting. And I don't know what that wave would be. They're saying in space-time in ripples in space-time is the way they worded it, but I don't know what that means exactly. What's a ripple in space?
I'd have to do a little bit of research before.
And what's even more so? What's a ripple in time? I mean, are you going back and forth in time or something? If you happen to be there?
No, but it might be where if you imagine two light beams. Let's suppose that you have two light beams that are pulsing, and they have pulses that are extremely short and extremely synchronized, and they're traveling, let's say, a yard apart down along some shaft, okay? Mm-hmm. And so
like parallel?
They leave. What's that?
Like parallel?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so they're traveling parallel down a tunnel. Okay. And so so they've got their source, like a couple of, I don't know, laser LEDs or something like that, and they're bleeping out these lights, and so they're traveling down this tunnel in parallel, and at the other end there's a detector that detects them, and lo and behold, as they're pulsing out, they're getting detected at exactly the same times, and so there's no difference whatsoever. Okay. And so maybe a ripple in space-time could mean that
they're detecting
you get
slightly
a moment times. Where, as say the ripple wave passes through, one of those pulses of light momentarily appears to travel a little bit slower than the other one, and so they reach the end with the one hitting first, and then the other one slightly after, and then the next time through, maybe the other one appears to travel a little bit slower, so then they hit in the opposite order, and then the next time they end up being synced again, or something like that.
Okay.
This is just off the cuff, just knowing the little bit I know about gravity, space-time, and some of Einstein's work and that kind of stuff. That's the kind of thing that I think that they might be looking for. I
see. Okay. So, well, anyway, this thing was offline for a while, and they're doing some updates, and they've got it back online again. And they're saying that let's see, I think there have been 12 of these that have been spotted, but with the new software and hardware, they expect to see a lot more of them. I didn't know why are there so many black holes colliding?
Oh, that's
a lot of collision
over the universe. Lots of play because these so-called waves are like extremely minute by the time they reach us. But right. I'm looking at a picture at the virgo.gw.eu website, and it's got a picture that has like a little building that might be, I don't know, the top of an underground control center or whatever, and then these two they look either like pipes, you can't tell from this distance, pipes running out along the ground, or maybe they're trenches of water running out along the ground. Maybe it's cooling water, but they're in perpendicular directions. So maybe that's the thing, is that they send laser pulses out, which get reflected back, and they're synchronized, and they're looking for one of them to come back at a later than the other, or something like that.
Okay. Well, anyway, speaking of black holes, we've got our first ever, quote, picture of one.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you didn't know that?
I did not know that. In fact, I should have been looking for it, because it was even like a couple of years ago, they were working on a detection of black holes that would be almost nearly direct detection, that the measurement would be so directly tied to the phenomenon of the black hole itself that it would kind of take black holes out of, because even a few years ago, the existence of black holes themselves, even though everybody considered them to be real, in a strict sense, it was still theoretical. Yeah, well, so I still think it is. This was going to move it like to where it's almost not theoretical anymore.
Mm-hmm. Well, here's what they're saying. So there's this disk of around a black hole that is basically particles that have very high energy. So it gets heated up.
Mm-hmm.
And so the picture they took, it's of this disk.
Okay.
Technically, it's not the black hole itself, except in the middle of it, you see a black portion.
Okay.
So my question is, did it just happen to be facing the way it was so that we could see a complete hole? Or if it's a disk that crosses it, why wasn't it more like Saturn or something like that?
No, it's. I don't even think that's thinking of it right. So I'm going to have to read more. But
irritates me. It irks me because that's the question I've had
that way.
ever since they've said this over and over again. I look at every single report and I'm like, okay, if it's a disk, which everyone's describing it as a disk, why did it just happen to be in that position that we were able to see this?
Yeah.
Well, I haven't read everything in the NASA's website yet, but I'm going to, and then I'm going to send a message to NASA imploring them to explain these simple things. It's not hard to explain this stuff. It's not like we're so stupid we wouldn't understand it.
Yeah.
But, okay. So they've taken a picture of the black holes, and we've taken a picture of gravitational waves. Now, there's a Israeli lunar lander that has crashed on the surface of the moon. There was a failure in the lander's main engine. So I guess they were planning to land there.
Or some other countries?
Israel.
Okay. Yeah,
I guess they were planning to land there.
What
were they going to do?
I maybe just research. I don't know. I'm sure they have scientists who are interested in that stuff.
Well, I wonder if this was supposed to take off again.
You don't think Israel still lives in the Old Testament model?
I think they do.
No. That's only certain Israeli wannabes of today.
Okay. That's their neighbors, the Palestinians.
Yeah.
Now, SpaceX has successfully launched, Falcon Heavy, which had a number of 3 boosters in it that they're trying to design reusable boosters. And so far they would lose at least one of the 3. But this time
That's not a bad track record, though.
Right. Compared to, losing all of them every time you launch.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they have landed all 3 boosters on their latest launch.
Oh, okay. So these are boosters that are designed once they separate to go into an autonomous controlled land?
Yeah.
Okay. That's a really cool idea.
That is a cool idea. And it looks like they're succeeding. So it gets us one step closer to really actual space travel.
That's right.
And it gets us closer to being able to do this stuff more cheaply.
Yeah.
Because it's really expensive. And
when it's private, it's going to get cheap. People are going to find ways to make it work. Yeah.
Because before now, it was just governments doing it. And it's like, here's a blank check, get us to the moon.
Right.
They spent so much money. And I think if it had been a private endeavor from the start, we'd probably be able to get to space a lot cheaper than
Right.
Right. But there was no reason back then.
Some people who probably don't think that's a good thing, but
yeah,
I think that would be really cool.
Yeah. That's all I got on space.
Okay. Well, that's some neat stuff going on.
Yeah. It's like, 1, 2, 3, 4 things in one. Well, it's a week and a half because we're recording on Wednesday instead of Saturday.
Right. And we probably won't be recording this weekend.
We won't? Oh, it's Easter, ain't it? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
in fact,
maybe I'll get Jason to come over and record one.
Oh, there you go.
Okay. So, let's see. We've got... Okay, so Mike Pompeo has designated Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps as a foreign terrorist organization.
As a what?
Foreign terrorist organization.
Okay.
This is the first time that the U.S. has designated a part of an actual government as a terrorist organization. Oh. Generally, they're rogue.
They're like
groups.
Guerrilla groups or something like that.
Yeah, but this is the actual part of the government, and they're saying this is a terrorist. This is in Iran. So
now they have designated governments as overly friendly to terrorists.
Right.
So like you're not allowed to ship things to those governments, export to those countries and stuff like that.
Right. But now they're saying the actual government.
The government itself, or a part of the government, is a terrorist organization.
It's just odd that it took so long to do this, because a lot of these governments are terrorist organizations.
Overtly. Well, not overtly, but directly doing it. Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
They're bad people, and they promise money to families of people who have blown themselves up and things like that.
Yeah.
So, were you following the quote nationwide college admissions scandal? You think it's funny too?
Following, I'm going to have to write this in a post sometime. It's been a while since I've written on the grist mill, but to me it kind of highlights, in a certain sense, why Trump won and why these elites, the kinds of people that are involved in this, are so upset that Trump won. And here's my take on it. This, throughout all the various ages, there have been commonly aristocracies, people who, by privilege of birth, and I wouldn't want to take anybody's privilege of birth away. If your parents are rich, they leave you a lot of money, you're going to have it easy.
Good for you.
And good for you. And I'm not going to try to take that away from anybody. But here's the thing. People of that, whether they get into the club or are born into the club, they've, had various relationships with the commoners and so forth, the plebes, the working class, whatever you want to call it. But this is probably the first time in the history and made more apparent because of things like social media. This is the first time that the working class, the commoners, are presuming to outright judge the elite, to hold the aristocracy in judgment and find them wanting to say, you don't measure up. And I think that the elite are just PO'd about it.
You're going to have to explain. I don't know what you mean.
Well, are
you talking about the public standing in judgment of these 16 elitists?
No, well, that's an example. But okay. That's the thing is, they think of themselves as so what's the word? Above judgment.
Uh-huh.
That of course they did this. They probably didn't even think twice about doing this. They probably didn't even register on their moral or ethical filter to consider whether they should do this. See, that's the thing. And so it's like, well, yeah, duh. You just proved everybody's point about the elite classes in America and why normal people don't listen to you anymore when it comes to things like who to vote for.
Right. And it really ticked everyone off that someone who's not an elitist somehow got into the most powerful position in the world.
Yeah. But yeah, I do find it funny. It's like, they're elite and they consider themselves, so great. They consider themselves to be the ones that everybody should listen to. Their own kids can't even hack it.
Yeah. Yeah, they had to bribe people in order to get them into these schools. But being in those schools, that's what makes them elite,
And the fact that they were able to do this undermines the whole argument for the schools themselves. It's like, well, what? You can pay your way into that. Why should I give that any, special intellectual or moral value? Yeah. Why should I listen to a graduate of Harvard more than I would listen to a graduate of, Hillsdale or Indiana University for that matter?
Well, see, here's the thing. That's how I've always thought of them.
Me too, actually.
I've never... It doesn't surprise me that this... I'm wondering why it's even in the news. I mean, I just assume this stuff happens all the time.
Oh, yeah.
When you've got a lot of money and you want your kid to go to a certain school, they're going to go to that school. If you've got enough money. I just assumed that's always how it worked. But I guess working that way is illegal. So now there's a big deal because some people have been caught.
Yeah.
Oh, well. let's see. We already did. There's a new species of human beings discovered.
Uh-huh.
Now, this one's got me scratching my head.
Okay.
Homo luzonensis. Hold on, I'm going to say this. I'm going to cut this part out. Luzonensis. Homo luzonensis. If I'm saying this right. Homo luzonensis is identified as a new species of human beings discovered in Callao Cave in the northern Philippines.
Oh, this is like a missing link human species.
Right. But see,
okay. So start spelling it for me.
Luzonensis.
Luzonensis. Okay, or something like that.
So
and National Geographic has a write-up on it.
If they're going to call this a new species, now would you say that this is an animal that cannot breed with human beings or cannot breed with us?
I don't know. That's
or is it just a race? Perhaps?
Right. Is it really a different species or is it just a race?
And
and since all of these other so-called species of it's kind of funny that so here's the thing, they're technically they're calling them hominins, not humans, so they're like us in
like
physical
humanoids.
Structure.
In the sci-fi world, you would call them a humanoid
or a hominid or something like that. Yeah. So the thing that is kind of, not only could they breed with us, but if they did, are they human or not? Are they, do they have intellect and free will and the ability to think abstractly? Do they have a soul that gives human faculties and the capacity of agency and so forth? Or does God restrict that only to the particular arrangement of DNA that makes Homo sapiens?
And then the other question is this just fake? Because there have been plenty of fake. New quote species discovered that turn out to, I think one was discovered in Idaho, and I don't remember the name of that one, but turned out to be just a pig jawbone. And out of this jawbone, they had constructed this link to mankind, the link between apes and man. And it just turned out to be a jawbone. From this jawbone, he had constructed this entire species, and it turned out to be a pig's jawbone. And that's not even an old pig, just a pig.
People might have thick jawbone. I mean, people have various thicknesses of jawbone.
Right. And so, and then, aside from... So obviously they've got this skeleton, or at least part of a skeleton. I think it'd be interesting to find out exactly how much of the skeleton they have. And from that, they're going to create a whole species. And you got to wonder things like, maybe this was just one guy who deformed. If you don't have more than one, why are you assigning an entire species?
Here's
how do you know it wasn't a dwarf or something like that?
Here's a French lecturer talking on the current work on this particular species. He's a lecturer. I guess he's the lead study author on the work that they're doing. But he clarifies. It says you got to remember that species in this context are just man-made categories that aim to clarify evolutionary history. They're not hard and fast biological realities.
Okay.
So, again, they're just variations of what may be humans, or they're variations of what might be unhuman.
But they're not they might just be like the difference between...
They may be completely different species.
A Great Dane and a Chihuahua.
Mm-hmm.
So it's... I don't know. I mean, look, are we a different species than the pygmies that we found in Africa, the tiny little people? I mean, no.
Yeah,
I would say that
probably not.
with the right conditions, you could have a direct descendant from a pygmy and a direct descendant from a European, and they could fall in love and have children.
Yeah.
To call it a different species, I think is, but
right.
I guess we'll wait and see what comes out of it.
That's my take too. I think these, they want, That's one of the things. I mean, think about like non-paleobiologists. What's one of their the big things that they can get a name for themselves if they discover a new species. Well, it's the same thing for paleobiologists, but they've got it easier because they can call a new variation and give it a name as a species. But it's really just a different race.
Yeah.
And even races, we got to remember that we all still come from one pair of parents.
Mm-hmm.
So even the concept of races among humans is an adaptation to just local geography over time, and different people's preferences for certain physical characteristics that made them marry more and have children.
Mm-hmm. I think you could.
There's nothing particularly biological about races.
It's possible. I think you could say the same thing about Neanderthals and a lot of the
right.
Lucy.
Exactly.
So I don't. Well, that's what's in the news. New species of human beings is discovered. Okay, here's something bad. The Constitutional Court of Korea. This is South Korea.
Oh, right.
Rules that the 1953 abortion ban is unconstitutional. So abortion is now legal in South Korea.
Yep, I know. Danny was talking to me about that. He's been to South Korea. And,
oh, yeah, that's right.
I forget what he was saying. He said there's a little bit more context to it than just, now we're going to make abortion legal. This is happening and this is where, it's great to have a country that doesn't allow abortion, because you want to value human being, children, and stuff like that. But Korea has culturally other problems that sort of feed into this decision that they feel like they have to make it available. So, and I forget what everything he said about it was, but there's a kind of a strong culture where women are. I think men and women are kind of like not advised to marry young, and men are able to put a lot of pressure on women to, sleep with them, and then the women get pregnant, but it's extreme. There's like an extreme social stigma against women who have children out of wedlock.
Mm-hmm.
And so then the men who they don't want to pay child support or whatever it is that they have. I don't even know if they have that, but then they're able for that reason to convince the women to get an abortion, or in this case, they would be able to convince them to get an abortion. Or if they don't, then they can convince the woman to marry them even if they don't want to. I forget what all it was. There was a whole like system where because of the certain kind of what do you call it? Like a double standard of the culture that made it really difficult for women. And so this is kind of a attempt to respond to that and say, now it's a completely wrong response. It's like, it can become very tough for women to become a mother out of wedlock. So let's let her kill her baby.
Yeah.
That's clearly not the right answer. But it's in a context that,
shows another problem that
there's a problem, but what would
it.
solve the problem is honestly Christianity.
Yeah, yeah. I see a lot of problems today that could be solved by Christianity.
Yeah.
Okay, wait a minute. Is it in Korea where that documentary came out of? Baby Dropbox. Have you ever seen that?
No, I haven't.
Okay, it was on Netflix for a while. I don't know if it is anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very touching. Yeah. This is South Korea. It's a documentary about a guy in South Korea who was a pastor of this little church, and he put a drop box out front for babies.
Okay.
Because apparently that's a problem. Women who have babies and don't want them and can't raise them.
Right.
And of course, a lot of the babies he gets are deformed and have all kinds of birth defects. But he's taking them in and doing what he can with them. Very pro-life. If you get a chance, something you definitely want to see.
Okay. Yeah.
But, if you're a crier, you're going to cry. So it's just one of those movies.
Yeah.
Very tough. But yeah, that's in South Korea, and it talks about a lot of the problems you're talking.
Okay. Well, so anyway, yeah, wrong way to go, South Korea. That's
it kind of reminds me of the
that.
vote that they did in Ireland. I was really sad about it.
Gosh, man, that's because Ireland was supposed to be a Catholic country too.
Yeah,
but, you know.
I feel like that's like it's one of those things. It's like, I mean, this isn't these idiot politicians making decisions. This isn't a judge who has no right to write laws, making laws. Right. This is people of Ireland voting to kill babies.
Yeah, it's like they just
that's like calling on the wrath of
wholesale.
God. I mean, I don't know. I hope something changes, and I hope that if it was ever put to a vote in America, that the outcome would. But
oh gosh, yeah,
I don't know. Let's see Oh, okay. We already talked about the guy setting fires. He was arrested, and he's got 6 charges and he is a neo-Nazi.
yeah, of course.
Let's see. Michael Avenatti is charged on 36 accounts, including embezzlement, wire fraud, tax evasion, bankruptcy fraud, and bank fraud. The guy was a scumbag from the start, and I don't know how he got so much face time, but I guess anyone who goes against Trump right now is going to get a lot of face time.
Yeah.
Do you remember him? He was what was that stars that was coming out with claims? I can't even remember her name now. It wasn't Danielle Steele.
No. that's an author. I think Daniels was her last name, wasn't it?
Why can I not remember this? Everybody was talking to her about her like 6 months ago, and then
Stormy Daniels.
Stormy Daniels. That's it. Okay.
Yeah.
It was Stormy Daniels, lawyer who.
Right.
I don't know. You know, the thing is, they keep bringing in things like this against Trump, and you would think that after the tape they had, what was the tape they had? It was the NBC tape of him talking in the locker room about some girl.
Oh, right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I know the one you're talking about.
Okay, you would think after that, after the fact that it didn't even touch his numbers, that they would know that these kinds of things are not going to bring him down.
Yeah, no, that's.
I mean, I think we're so beyond that kind of stuff hurting someone politically,
right?
And it changed with Bill Clinton, I think.
Well, even before Bill Clinton, I don't. You remember? There was. I mean, there were a number of them, I'm sure, but the one I remember is Gary Hart. He had a fling with I think he was married, had a fling with some supermodel or something like that.
Was he a politician?
Democratic presidential nomination till he dropped out 1988.
Okay.
Dropped out over allegations of an extramarital affair.
Well, the thing is, he did drop out, though, because
of the presidential
he thought
election.
It was going to hurt him. But Bill Clinton got reelected.
Yeah.
Despite
Yeah, and I mean, that was...
It was the left who all told us it's just sex. You can't hold him to some kind of special bar just because he's president. He's still a human being, and he still does these, and it's just sex. So what? Well, okay, if we're going to apply that, then it gets applied to Trump as well. So and they bring out these scandals and think that it's going to destroy him, and it doesn't touch him, and they're all scratching their heads.
Yeah.
But
they kind of burned that bridge with Clinton.
Right. You know, it's time to stop. I don't know. Oh well. Avenatti's getting charged, and I don't know. I guess he'll end up in jail. Kind of hope so. Ooh, Mike DeWine, governor of Ohio, signs a bill that restricts abortion after detectable heartbeat.
The Ohio heartbeat bill. Way to go, Mike DeWine.
Okay, this was in the works, I want to say over 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I remember they tried to pass this.
It was put before Kasich twice, who vetoed it, wasn't it?
I don't know how, I don't know where it got struck down, but this has been in the works for a long time. And it's nice to see it get this far. And I think right now, now it's got to go through the courts. So let's hope that Trump's appointees do what we all wanted them to do and allows things like this to pass.
Yeah.
The last known female Yangtze giant soft-shell turtle has just died. This is
the last
world's
known female of this particular turtle species.
right. Was
this like in a zoo somewhere?
Yeah, in China.
Oh, okay. Okay.
This is the world's largest species of freshwater turtle.
So this is the end of a species of turtle.
Right. So
Wow.
I guess unless they find one.
Okay.
You know, I mean, maybe there's one in the wild that we didn't know about. But this is the last known female.
Okay. Okay.
So, it's one of those things.
Yeah.
Tiger Woods.
Oh, what's he doing?
Well, he won the Masters
Oh, okay.
in Georgia. That's a big deal to people who pay any attention to golf.
The golf?
Yeah. Not me, though.
Which I don't.
But
I don't know how significant it is that he's won the Masters. I don't know whether he's won the Masters before.
yeah, he has.
Okay.
So he won he got really good, and then he started slipping and got involved with a bunch of scandals.
Oh, okay. Okay.
The whole world's looking at him and, talking smack. He got in an accident and it ruined his back. He went through years of back operations. Maybe it wasn't from the accident. At some point, he got in an accident because of the amount of drugs he was on.
Oh, right.
Pain medication.
Yeah.
But this is his first major win in 11 years.
Oh, okay. Okay. Wow. That's.
But it's one of those stories with somebody who was up high and fell and made a comeback. Kind of a Cinderella story with Cinderella Man story.
Yeah.
Have you seen that movie?
No.
Cinderella Man with Russell Crowe.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Or is a boxer. Anyway, a pretty good movie. Anyway, it's a guy who was on top or close to the top, and then he sank, and he came back after a number of years. So
I see.
It's a big deal in the golf world, and it's a big deal for anyone who at one time admired him, and then suddenly,
Yeah.
he seemed to be doing everything wrong. It'd kind of be like seeing what's his name, Mel Gibson do a good movie again.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So, okay, so the congressional put forth a resolution. Hold on, I gotta reread this. I didn't read it right first time. I'm gonna read it to you straight the way they say it.
Okay.
U.S. President Donald Trump vetoes a congressional resolution against continued U.S. support for Saudi Arabia's military intervention in Yemen. Now that could mean a couple different things.
Okay, wait a minute. He vetoed the resolution against continuing support for Saudi Arabia's intervention in Yemen. So what's going on?
Wait a minute. Did he veto He vetoed a resolution. Was the veto against continued U.S. support, or was the resolution against support? I better look this one up.
I think the way you read it, it sounds like the Congress wanted to stop supporting Saudi Arabia's intervention in Yemen.
Okay,
and Trump wants to continue supporting their intervention.
I just read the whole story.
I'm not sure
That's
why.
the way
the
it
Saudis
is.
are not good people.
Yeah,
I don't know what's between Saudi Arabia and Yemen.
I have a feeling. See, things like that. I guess I've come to trust Donald Trump enough to think that there's maybe a good reason that we don't know about.
Yeah.
You shouldn't trust politicians that much.
Right.
But I think this is probably the only politician I would ever say that about. I kind of trust him to make the decision.
Yeah. Well, if it was a decision that was going to affect me directly, I would learn more about it.
Might question a little bit more. I don't know.
but
even if it did affect me,
you can line up all the people who are going to be against Trump on this particular issue, and whatever they say, it's not going to be the kind of thing that would cause me to consider, for example, not voting for Trump a second time. You know what I mean? So on that level, yeah,
I guess the thing is,
I trust Trump more than any politician out there.
Well, that's what it is, because I think every politician is out for themselves anymore. I don't think there are a whole lot of politicians who really love this country and who's got some kind of ideal where their only goal is to make the country better. And I really think Trump thinks that way.
Yep.
And it's pretty refreshing having a president who actually does think that.
I mean, it's kind of, I mean, people, decried Trump's corporate background as president and that kind of stuff. And sure, there are a lot of ways in which the United States should not be run as a corporation.
Right.
But the one thing about a corporation is that good CEOs don't ever see their job as a CEO as making themselves self-important to the other people in the company.
That is true.
Their job is to make the company good among the market and among the industry. And that's how Trump is approaching the job as president of the United States.
Definitely. So when things like this happen, I'm much more likely to say he's got some reason for doing this.
Yeah.
Back when he signed that outrageous spending bill that didn't include anything of what he wanted, but anything of what he wanted along the lines of immigration.
Right.
But it contained a giant increase in military spending.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everybody was mad. I guess I was a little miffed about it, but I just think, look, he wants the military up first.
Yeah.
And then there's 1,000 other things he wants to do. But we got to have a strong military if we're dealing with other countries. Mm-hmm. That's got to be there first.
Yeah. And even if we're not deploying the military in direct action,
right?
It's got to be in our back pocket. It's got to be something we could do.
What does it speak?
And I think that the weakening of the
stick?
military under Obama was so public. Everybody knows we're.
Right. It was sad, and we were fighting a whole bunch of wars.
Yeah.
And we weren't really winning any of them. I mean, our military had handcuffs.
Yeah.
We weren't even allowed to define the enemies, Islamic terrorists and things like that.
Right.
They weren't allowed to say is. But now here's something, and this is the last one I got.
Okay.
So at Yale University, they have successfully partly revived the brains of deceased pigs. This is 4 hours after death. So the brains have been dead for 4 hours, and they revived parts of the brain.
Parts of the brain, not okay.
Right. This might indicate that this might do well with technology that works towards people who are, say, paralyzed.
Oh.
You know what I mean?
So some of the procedures could involve other parts of the neural system and repairing it. That's
what I think the importance of that would be.
Yeah. Well, that would be really neat.
Mm-hmm. It's amazing what they're doing.
Along those lines, and just following up on another medical related, a human heart was made from human cells with a 3D printer.
What?
Now, there's some caveats. The heart itself was only about the size of a rabbit's heart. It's not like you could put it in a person. Okay, for one thing. But it is made from human cells with human tissue that would be biologically matched to the person from whom they got the tissues and the cells and stuff. The other challenge they're having is getting the heart that the muscle that they printed out can contract. I mean, it's real cells and real tissue, but they haven't figured out how to get the heart to work together, the different parts to work together, because the heart has the 2-beat motion,
or maybe the brain to tell it to work.
It pumps the ventricles and then the atria and so forth.
It's got to be connected to the nervous system in order to work, right? Well, no, I guess it doesn't, because you can take it out and it'll still pump.
They can take a heart out of a person and it'll continue to beat according to its established rhythm for a little bit of time.
Okay.
So so that's one of the challenges, and then the other thing, like I said, it's tiny. It's just a few grams. It's about 1/100th the size of a real human heart, but it's real human tissue that's biologically matched, a specific patient that is just kind of opening some technology for what could eventually be printed organs.
Yeah,
you would be your
printed
own donor.
arm or printed foot.
Yeah, well, that would be even cooler.
Yeah. Well, I lost my arm in the war, and they just printed one out.
Talk about a nice prosthetic there.
Wow. That's insane.
So yeah, it is. So, but that my thinking is that technologies like this could replace the whole organ donor network stuff,
and it could replace all the preoccupation on things like clones.
Right.
The idea of cloning someone in order to get organ transplants and things like that.
Right.
That's all I got.
Okay, well,
you got anything?
I got a couple of nutty ones from from the land of nonsense. They both involve nudity. So
I like those.
Okay, well, I don't think either one is one that you want the visual on, but
okay.
So in a Wisconsin Walmart store.
Oh, Walmart shoppers. Have you ever gone to this? Have you ever looked at the collection of Walmart shoppers? They are the most bizarre people.
Well, this woman is right there in with them. She was going around in a store. She took her dog in off leash, who was running up to customers and scaring them and stuff, while she ran around the store pulling their display signs down and putting them into her cart.
The display signs of like products, like a soup display sign. Okay.
Yeah, like that kind of stuff, and put them in her. And then finally, the police chased her outside, and she started using karate moves on them. Yeah, I know, right? So they finally did apprehend her, though. And
was she nude?
No, no. It gets better. So, so meanwhile, now she's 46. Meanwhile, her 26-year-old son went in the store and started undressing and went full nude and was exposing himself to various customers.
These people really wanted to get on the news.
And then, and eventually he just grabbed some clothes off the shelf and put them back on, with clearly no intention to pay for them. Police finally arrested him too. Well, he got on his scooter and he was trying to run him over with his scooter. So
the cops?
Yeah. So they stopped the scooter and pulled him off and arrested him.
I am definitely going to find these videos.
I don't know that they're videos. I don't know if there's videos of them. There's reading the story.
There's got to be videos. Can you imagine that happening in front of you and not pulling a cell phone out? Nobody's going to believe this. Only in Walmart.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, have you ever do a search on Walmart shoppers?
You'll
someday.
Find some
Google
stories,
images.
There's
websites with collections of them, and they're just the strangest people. Well, you know my feelings on Walmart.
I know.
We're going to do a podcast on Walmart someday.
Yeah.
Walmart's almost gone anyway. Amazon is just kicking their butts.
Kind of taking over, aren't they? Yeah.
But you won't hear me saying the same thing about Amazon. Mm-hmm. Anyway.
Well, Amazon is so much into, if you just want to let them be the broker and you handle all of your own logistics, they're fine with that.
Yeah. I get, okay, because like my wife will fight me to the death on this whole subject. But Amazon does not put small businessmen out of business.
Oh, right. No, they can use Amazon to expand their business.
Yeah, anyone can sell on Amazon. And so the thing is, like, what Vicky's reply to that would be, so a guy has a phone that he's going to sell, and so he goes on Amazon to sell that phone, and the second it starts selling a whole lot, then suddenly Amazon has it for sale for a few bucks cheaper. And I think that does happen sometime. But what Amazon really gets out of this is two things. Number one, having the largest store, imagine, and having so many things for sale that they themselves could never carry all this stuff, but they still sell it. Mm-hmm. Number two, they learn buying patterns. I think right. I think their database probably puts Facebook's to shame.
Yeah.
They know so much about people spending money.
You go search for something, and they come up with 3 other things that you might be interested in based on
half
both
the time they're
your
right.
past spending and what you searched for.
And what other people have done.
Right.
And people are so paranoid about this.
Oh.
And I've never been
Amazon's
paranoid.
the way to do it. I mean, they provide the marketplace, but...
Yeah, why not? Why wouldn't you want a seller to know what you want to buy?
Mm-hmm. I mean, compare that to the cost of sending a salesman, to all the different places that you could market your goods.
Right. Or compare that to walking into a store and saying, I need to do this, or I want to set up my computer to do this. And the salesman might or might not know how to accomplish that, all the different things you're going to need to accomplish it. Yeah. Little things like that, it's handy when there's this entity that knows what you're going to need. Mm-hmm. Or at least could guess what I think the same thing about Google.
Oh, yeah.
If I want to search for something, it's nice to know. I mean, I start typing in searches, and they know what I'm searching for before I'm even spelled out the first word.
I know, isn't it weird?
It's
like, where did they get their mind-reading software? It's like you've got 2 words out, and the words you've got out are so generic, they could go anywhere, and they happen to land very close to where you want to go.
Vicky insists that they're listening to us because we'll talk about something. And the first word will be "the" or something like that. And they know what you're searching for. Somebody's listening to us.
Well, your cell phones, a guy did a test with... did I bring this up on a podcast in the past? The guy had his iPhone.
Hold on.
Okay.
So, yeah, Vicky wanted to stress that they are indeed listening. She heard me talking about it. She had to come in and say, yes, they're listening.
Well, the guy had his iPhone, and he wanted to turn the full-time mic off, that he didn't want to be listened to. And he contacted Apple or went into the iPod store, whatever it is, that did somehow talk to them. And you do this and this and this, and then it's off. And then your mic's not running unless you're actually using it for something. So he did that, and he decided to test it. So he went in and just with his cell phone in his pocket, the screen off and everything, he started talking like he's talking to his dog. Hey, good boy, come here, stuff like that. Well, he doesn't have a dog. But he started talking like that, and the next time he got online, and I don't know if it was it was on his phone. The next time he started doing something on his phone where they put personalized ads up and stuff.
Yeah.
They started advertising dog products, dog food and stuff
ads.
like that.
Yeah, see, I don't doubt it. I don't spend a whole lot of time thinking about it, but it's not something where I would be completely surprised.
Right.
But I don't think I'll ever care as much as.
Oh,
it just doesn't bother me.
Yeah, I don't care as long as it stays.
As long as the government can't do.
Exactly. As long as it stays something that it's just okay.
It's a way to make money.
It's the cost of me having this product. Okay. If I really don't like it, I can take the inconvenience of turning my cell phone off all the way when I'm not using it.
And there's no law that's going to say you have to have this on you 24/7.
Exactly. So, the only downside, I think, is that it increases the capability for surveillance. So, for example, let's say the government decided that, the cell phone networks all have to give away for the NSA to at will tap into any stream of data,
right,
or something like that. That they have to technologically provide that capability. Then the NSA can just do it at will, no court orders or anything like that. That's the kind of thing that I would be against. And the government has tried that before. They were back in
Obama had a big thing.
Well, no, before Obama, back in the 80s or something, when strong cryptography was in the public sector was becoming, or the private sector, the public forum was kind of becoming a thing that people were aware of and were aware of the capability of. You could actually hide your communications even from the government, stuff like that. And the government was proposing for telecommunication a encryption chip that all the telecommunication companies would be required to use for their encryption. It was called the Clipper chip. But the thing about it was that it was built with government crackable backdoors. So, just in case, so that we can track down what a terrorist or whatever. So the government if they can get away with it, they'll try to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So.
I think we should get on topic again. You got
Okay,
another
so
story,
yeah,
right?
back on top. So that was Walmart. The other one is in Connecticut. So a couple was out shopping in the morning, and they came home to find a 35-year-old man named Joseph Achenbach inside their house. He apparently crashed his Ford Escape into the backyard and then wandered into the house through an unlocked sliding glass door. The thing is, he was wandering around the house naked. The police were unable to find clothes on the scene. It appears that he was naked when he was driving, crashed into their yard, went into their house, and hung out. And my understanding is he didn't even try to get some of their clothes to put them on. He was just,
must have been dazed.
Kicking it natural.
Dazed and confused.
He must have been. They say drugs and alcohol probably had something to do with it.
Right. Well, they say make sure you have a pair of clean underwear on in case you're ever in an accident.
There you go.
And he didn't have any clean underwear. So he's going to drive naked because he's out of clean underwear.
He's out of clean underwear.
That's pretty good. If you came home and there was a dude in your house walking around naked, I mean, that would be really freaky.
It would. It would
scare the daylights out of you at first. And then you realize that, well, I don't know.
He's just high or something. But,
Still be scary.
I don't know. It would be one of those things. I mean, it would be in some ways more scary than like, I don't know, getting mugged or something like that, I think.
Right.
It's like, it would just be like just this.
A guy who mugs you wants your wallet, and he might hurt you afterwards, but you know what he wants.
Yeah.
But a naked guy in your living room.
It's like, wait a minute, how did that happen? That's like not supposed to happen. That's like.
Yeah.
That's like.
Muggings happen.
Yeah.
Nude guys in your living room don't happen.
That doesn't happen.
Wow.
All right, that's all I've got from the land of nonsense.
Okay, we covered a good hour and a half with no subject.
Oh, wow.
We're pretty good at not talking about anything in particular.
Talking about nothing. Yeah, and a few of the things, we touched on the Catholic viewpoint of. Other things, it's just more the common sense viewpoint of.
Yeah. But next week, or next podcast, is going to be about Satan, Lucifer.
The devil.
Is Satan and Lucifer the same being?
And
Beelzebub?
I think Satan is more. Well, Beelzebub is not considered the same as Lucifer.
Okay.
I think Beelzebub is a I think it derives from a certain culture, and Beelzebub is considered to be one of the demons, maybe one of the main demons, but it's like that culture's name for evil demon, whatever. Lucifer is a specific.
He's described in the Bible,
fallen angel that's based on particular Christian theology.
So is Lucifer the same as the serpent?
I don't know. In terms of that's
was he the one?
I don't know.
Or the one? I'm writing a book about that.
No, I didn't.
About the devil.
Oh, okay.
I'm writing a book. I've always wanted to write horror, and I think I've mentioned this before. It always ends up becoming sci-fi.
Yeah.
So then I tried to write some true horror stories. So I found some stories here in Cincinnati. I wrote a book about that. But now what I'm doing is I'm writing a book about an exorcist, but it has to follow the rules that this is only stuff that could happen.
Okay. Okay.
It's not a true story, but it's plausible.
It's an authentic story.
Right.
It's and in other words, it's one that'll be truly scary.
Right. Because that's what I watch horror stories and I'm like, but that couldn't happen.
That couldn't happen.
Why is this scary? I mean, if it did happen, it would be scary, but it can't happen.
But since
so
it can't,
it's not
as
scary.
A story, it's not scary. Right.
On the other hand, the book or the movie The Exorcist, that scared the daylights out of me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Although I don't think all of that could happen. Well, maybe it could. I don't know. But the idea of an invading demon always scared me. So that's what the book's is about. I'm like
Well, maybe you can share some of your research next week then.
Yeah, maybe 10,000 words away from the end here. So
oh, wow.
I'm wrapping up now.
Okay, cool.
So maybe by next week I'll have my first draft.
Neat.
So, all right, well, we didn't really say much, but think about it anyway. And circle the beads.
Circle the beads, absolutely.
We'll see you next time.
Bye, everyone.
Podcast.cathedral.